which we stand today. So the University of Queensland acknowledges the traditional owners and their custodianship on the lands on which we meet. So for me today at UQ St Lucia, this is the Turrbal and Yagara people. So we pay our respects to their ancestors and their descendants who continue cultural and spiritual connections to country, and we recognise their valuable contributions to Australian and global society. So, international placements. What we have are for an opportunity for our students for this year, for 2025, is to come on placement to Jakarta, Indonesia. So this is a semester 2 midwifery placement that we have on opportunity, and this will roughly run from the 23rd of November until the 23rd of December. Now, these dates are just an approximate at this stage because we're still going to be finalising flights once we have students secured into this placement opportunity. And depending on that, it might be a day later or one day earlier. But we'll make sure to have you all back by Christmas so that you can spend Christmas Day with family and friends. So, who can join us on this opportunity? Basically, you just need to be enrolled in MIDW 2106. So, if you're one of our Bachelor of Midwifery students or if you're one of our dual degree students, you just need to be enrolled in MIDW 2109 or be eligible to enroll because obviously you haven't yet completed this semester. We have an opportunity for students to apply for a New Colombo grant, and this will cover the majority of the costs of this international placement. So to be eligible to apply for that grant, you need to be an Australian citizen. You are not able to hold Indonesian citizenship or residency rights. You need to be between the age of 18 and 35. This is slightly negotiable in regards to that older age group. So don't let it stop you. Please, if you really want to come, apply and we can have a chat about that. But you need to have never received a New Colombo mobility grant previously because you're only eligible to receive one of those grants. If you have received a New Colombo scholarship, that's a little bit different. You'll find that you'll still be eligible to apply for the mobility grant. So once again, don't let that stop you. Just reach out to me and I can seek further clarification from the scholarship team around that. If you're not eligible to apply for the New Colombo grant and you're willing to either self-fund this placement opportunity or you can apply for OS help through the government, then the only criteria that you really need to be is that you need to be enrolled in one of those 2 clinical courses. You need to be willing to meet the additional immunisation requirements that may be required. You need to be able to abide by our behaviour policy while you're away on placement. And you cannot be pregnant or fall pregnant prior to departing for this placement opportunity. And that's just an OH&S safety concern. You also need to be willing to be involved in any media promotion that we do about the trip prior to going or afterwards, like you'll see the photos that we have here on this presentation today. This was from our placement last year and the students have given permission for us to use this. So what will we be doing in Jakarta on this placement? So basically you'll be completing your full midwifery placement experience. So if you're in 2106, then you'll be doing your full 120 hours of placement in Jakarta. And if you're in 2109, then you'll be completing your full 160 hours. So you'll be attending shifts at the hospital, just like you do in placement here in Australia, and being actively involved on those placement shifts. So it's a hands-on placement experience. It's not a stand-back observational experience. This is a team building experience. So we'll be traveling to and from Jakarta as a team. And you'll also be participating in cultural experiences while we're there as a team. Okay, yes, you'll have some downtime, some free time that you can go off and do your own thing, but there are set criteria to make this eligible for the New Colombo Plan grant. That means that we do have to do a few things together as a team. And then this, I'll hand over to Dave.
Thanks, Maggie. So I think you've touched on a few important details on what you'll be doing while you're here in Indonesia. But basically, the program features for the midwifery program are 160 hours of midwifery placement, which you won't be doing alone. You will be doing it alongside our Indonesian university students from our university partners. You will also be spending or dividing your week in between two places. One would be a private hospital, which would cater to a few more complex cases. And then you will be spending the rest of the week at either a community health center, or what we call as puskesmas here, or a maternity clinic where you will be dealing with most normal delivery cases. And then along the program, you will get supervision and also support from the UQ academic staff as well as international internship teams. So us from international internships, you usually provide like a weekly check-in just to check with your progress. If you're struggling, outside of your placement with navigating your life in the city and so forth. So you'll have that holistic support academically at your placement, but also outside of your placement. And last but not least, you will be focusing on your practical skill development and, getting an understanding of how midwifery is operated, outside of Australia. You will get to see a few unique things of how it's run in Indonesia. Okay. Next, I think I'm going to hand it over to Heidi or Maya, I'm not sure.
I'll jump in. I think we allocated this slide. So yeah, program fee 3,900. Now the NCP grant is $4,000. So there's obviously eligibility requirements and everything, but Maggie, I'm sure you'll communicate that. I'll leave that with you. Now the visa is approximately $200. So international internships will support through that process and process that visa for you, but then you'll be invoiced for the actual direct cost of it, which is around $200. Flights, approximately $1,500 is pretty comfortable. Should be comfortable for that. And personal spending, $600. Now that comes with a big disclaimer that everybody it's really hard to put, although everybody wants a number, it's very hard to put a number on that. Jakarta is one of those places where you can live extremely cheaply, but you can also spend a lot of money, depending on where you eat, what you do, where you go, and so on. But yeah, if you're, $600 is kind of reasonable amount from past experience.
Yeah, and the minimum wage in Jakarta is less than 600. I think it's 500 something. So 600 is a reasonable amount.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll just add one thing here. So just remember that if you are eligible for the New Colombo grant, then obviously that completely covers that program fee for you as students. But you can also, on top of that, apply for the OS Help. So if you were eligible for both, then you would be out of pocket nothing at the start of this, obviously, placement. The OS Help is like your HECS, so you will eventually pay that back. But students in the past have been eligible up to $8,000 of OS Help. So just keep that in mind, that if you did apply for that, that could completely cover your flights, your visa, and your personal expenses while there.
Thanks, Maggie.
All right. So the program fee, what does it include and what's not? The list is there, but the highlight, I mean, the main thing that is included in the program fee is the placement. Like Dave mentioned, we are expected to work with a hospital and a puskesmas or a healthcare center. Accommodation is included in the program fee. The type of accommodations and all the details will be shared with you before your arrival in Indonesia. All the support while on the ground in Indonesia is also included. Airport transfers when you arrive on our suggested date, and orientation, language class, everything here, like the type of the support from us, cultural and events, like Dave mentioned, we arrange for a weekend trip, social nights, we take you to explore Jakarta, and it's all included. Weekly check-ins, and basically 24/7 support while you are in Indonesia. We will also support you in getting your visa, but later on in the exclusions, the visa cost will be on you. We will help in getting the visa, but then we'll invoice you for the visa cost. Next. What's not included is the biggest chunk will be flight costs, like in the previous slide, the 1,500 approximately is not included. Anything related to that, also not included. As I said, visa not included, passport fees, travel insurance, daily meals is also not included, but Indonesia is not as expensive as Australia. I think Pita, she joined us last year. If you want to ask how much it costs per meal, but I say around $5 per meal is average, and it's already good. Enrollment fees you pay to the university is not included. The hosts require you to bring certain things. So for example, you have to bring your scrubs and other equipments, and that's not included in our program fee. Any vaccinations, any personal expenses is also not included. Next.
Okay, so why choose an international placement? And there's a lot of reasons for this. As you kind of saw in the inclusions, our goal of this in our kind of facilitation of it is to not only give you experience within midwifery, but to also really get a kind of contextual, intercultural understanding. And with that comes, working interculturally, there's definitely extra challenges above and beyond what it would be doing it locally. You've got communication barriers, you've got different cultural perspectives and expectations that you have to navigate. But by kind of tackling those in a supportive environment, we hope that you'll gain those intercultural communication and intercultural working skills that will be transferable, for the rest of your career. And no doubt you'll have that, if you're working in a hospital in Australia, that will be a big part of your job, I'm sure, given that Australia is so multicultural. But also you may choose to work internationally as well. So yeah, we want to really give you that those skills that you'll take with you and will service you for life, but also an understanding of our region. Indonesia is Australia's neighbour, 270 million plus people. The relationship between Australia and Indonesia is at its strongest point. I've been spending, time in both countries for over 20 years now, and it's never been the way it is now, where both sides of Australian government fully recognise the importance of Indonesia as a partner. And like we've got the Indonesia-Australia Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement signed in 2019 that recognises that. and there's a whole lot of collaboration that comes with that. So yeah, it's a really important partner for Australia. And it's it's the head of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. The Secretariat is based in Jakarta. So it also serves as a regional hub. And I guess particularly in healthcare, if I look at the areas that the governments are working on collaborations between Australia and Indonesia, healthcare is absolutely at the forefront of that. So I don't know exactly what, opportunities will pop up for you in your career that may connect Australia and Indonesia, but it does seem that the relationship is only growing stronger, especially within healthcare. So.
So, like we mentioned, this is our second time that we are taking a team over to Jakarta. And so, this is some feedback from the students who went last year. We're going to have some question time at the end, and Peter Winters Chang was one of the academics that did go last year with the students. So if there are any specific questions, I'm sure Peter will be able to answer some of them. But this is just the type of feedback that the students had while on their placement. Okay, so if after this session you have decided that you would definitely love to be part of our team that goes in November, December, what do you have to do? So I'm going to be sending out the EOI to all students within the second year Bachelor Midwifery and the third year dual degree students. And so basically you just have to respond to that EOI. So it's roughly a 6-question response. Approximately 1,000 words is what we'll roughly be looking for. So you need to have that submission in by the 18th of May. We'll then be shortlisting from those submissions by the 19th of May, and we'll be then looking at doing a face-to-face or a team interview with students who have been shortlisted. So it will just depend on kind of what your university requirements are looking like at the moment and what our teaching schedules are looking like in regards to if it's a face-to-face or a Teams interview. Those interviews will be running from the 26th of May to the 30th of May. And then you'll be notified by the 2nd of June if you've been successful in being part of our international placement program. You'll then need to accept that offer by the 10th of June. And we've made this a really tight time frame because then you'll need to be applying for the OS help by the 15th of June. So that's the University of Queensland's cutoff for that OS help, so that you'll know if you definitely want to go, so you'll be able to do that really quick turnaround applying for that OS help to help you that little bit further.
Okay, so on our side, basically you go through those first stages with the team at UQ and accept your offer. You'll then be kind of added to our participant portal. So that's just a login portal where you can access a heap of information. It's where we process your visa. So we'll collect the extra information we need, for your visa and so on. We'll give you a ton of information on what to pack, all of that stuff to help you prepare. And really that kicks off, you'll also need to agree to the code of conduct and stuff through that website. But that really kicks off once you've accepted your offer. And there is part of that, a $200 deposit to kind of formally accept your spot. But then the final fees come once the grant's already been distributed. So you can, as I said, that more than covers that. So you can effectively ignore that part. But yeah, from the moment you're officially on the program, we will go straight into preparing you to come. I also just want to mention, I realize we talked about the why international travel and talked about all the serious reasons, but it's also a lovely, fun country. Not only do we do the intercultural communication skills and all of that, but you'll spend so much time with the local students. You'll get out there, you'll see Jakarta's like it's a buzzing city with a lot of energy, and a really, really welcoming, warm population who will kind of look after you and have a great sense of humor. And that's a big part of the program too. It's not just this kind of serious intercultural experience. It's also a really fun time where you'll make lots of great friends.
So that's kind of a lot of the main detail. When I send around the EOI, there's a little bit further information in there, but we're really happy to take some questions now. I'll just stop sharing so we can see who might have their hand up. So whether it's directed at myself on UQ side of things or the International Internship team, feel free to raise your hands or turn your mic on and unmute yourself and ask any questions that you might have. Or type it in the chat if you're too nervous to talk.
Hi. I was just wanting to ask, would our births and all of those like MPEs be counted the same on the placement in Indonesia?
Thanks for that. Absolutely. So what happens is a UQ academic will go on this placement with you. We're still finalising who out of the team that will be, but they'll be there, so they'll be able to be that registered healthcare professional to verify all of your MPEs and sign them off while on this placement. Obviously, the only thing that will be challenging to do on kind of a 4 to 5 week placement in an overseas, country is continuity of cares, because it's not like you could come back to Jakarta and complete them. So we would be having a chat with those who have been successful to try and kind of recruit additional prior to going, so that you're on track. But yes, all MPEs completed while over there will be counted.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Oops.
I just had a question.
Thanks, Amelia.
Oh, I don't know why my background's like that, but anyway, I just wanted to know if you guys were sending more information out about like the vaccine requirements. Like, will that be sent out prior with like the EOI or?
Yeah, I can absolutely send that out. It does vary depending on kind of what Smart Traveller has flagged
Yeah.
as kind of a concern at that time.
Yeah.
And so it kind of goes through our OH&S department here just to clarify
Yeah.
that there's nothing additional at the time. But there's, being all, healthcare provider students anyway, that
Yes.
you've had the majority of the vaccine.
Yes,
So
that's
there's a very small amount that will be required additionally, but we can send that
Okay.
around.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
No worries.
Maggie or Peter, would you just explain the accommodation situation for the students?
Yeah, sure. So Jack and I were chatting about this earlier. So we haven't yet been able to confirm any accommodation as yet. So we kind of deleted that slide so as to not, give any false information. But just so that you are aware, it's obviously a team placement. So there is a chance that you'll be in share accommodation. So this will be with, a minimum of potentially 2 students to a room. And yeah, as we confirm accommodation closer to the time, we'll be able to give you more details. Is there anything you wanted to add to that, Jack?
No, just that we've noted, basically the preference is, what's kind of commonly professional accommodation in Indonesia. As we go, we're still finalizing the placements, like exactly where you'll be. So therefore the accommodation availability around that is slightly, we have to kind of check. It comes after we've locked in the placement. But noted that at least kind of some ability to prepare a basic meal there is, very high on the agenda, and we'll make sure that that's there, even if it's kind of, a really basic meal, but ideally there'll be a shared kitchen is something we'd be seeking again. yeah, that's probably the main points, I guess.
Yeah.
I just had a quick question as well, Maggie.
Yeah, no worries.
I just wanted to ask whether with like our shifts and stuff, I saw on the slide it said like it was split into 2 and 3 days in separate places. Would they be split up as well into like antenatal, postnatal, birth suite kind of shifts like we've got now too?
Yeah, sure. It's a little bit different. The whole midwifery context is a little bit different in Indonesia. So it'll be more, we'll finalize that when we get there, and we'll work out, okay, we can send kind of one student to this area, or this one could take two. So these placements are a little bit more flexible than Australian placements. It's not quite as, set in stone. We also, the majority of shifts last year, or all of the shifts last year, were together on just that morning shift. So we're just seeing as well if we can work in any kind of PM shifts, just to maximize kind of that birth exposure. So some of those details will be kind of finalized by the time we get there. Yeah, I know it doesn't answer your question completely, but
Oh, that's fine. Thank you.
no worries.
Certainly, this is Peter speaking. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Certainly, the experiences last year, there was an area where there were antenatal women. So caring for them in that space. There was the labour and birth area. This was at the private hospital. And then at that same hospital, there was the area where the mothers were after they had their babies. So really good opportunity, similarly to what we have here. And then at Puskesmas, the community centre, again, there was antenatal experience. There was a birthing area as well in that community centre. There was also postnatal clinics for women coming back, potentially getting contraception post having their babies, having newborn checks done. So it was a really, lots of different things in the community area as well. So the exposure to experiences is great. And probably just to jump, sorry, Jack, I think you sort of leant forward to maybe talk just then. And I think it might have been, sorry, I'm writing down who talked. I think it was Dave when you were talking about the program features, the Indonesian students. They were sort of our Indonesian friends, I think they were classed as last year. They were an absolute godsend. Because of the language barrier, because we had 9 students last year for all the students on screen, we had 1 Indonesian student per group of 3, and just having them there to bridge that language barrier, they were just outstanding. So I think that was a really beneficial part of the program as well. I could not, and the students last year who went on the placement couldn't speak more highly of the Indonesian students on placement, but then all of the other support, Heidi and Dave, and there's some other people, I can't remember them all right now, but just that support, the check-ins, just to make sure that we were all okay with everything that was going on with the placement. It just, it worked like clockwork. It was great.
Thanks, Peter. I was just going to add, this is a little note, because, some of the answers, we haven't locked in the placements yet and things. I guess I just want to flag the conversations have started around that, and it will likely be the hospital and the Puskesmas, the community health centre. But we do go through a lot of government approvals and anything. All these community health centres are connected to government. So that's the process that we're beginning, which is a long process. So I guess I'm flagging that now to explain a little bit of the uncertainty around how many shifts would be at different ones and so on, because it's both different levels of government and so on. There's quite a lot of bureaucracy. And So partly as a heads up that as we progress, we'll keep you updated as much as possible, but that's a kind of the process that we need to go through. It's not just a matter of chatting to an organization. It's kind of a lot of steps beyond that. Yeah, really just that, to kind of manage everyone's expectations moving forward. That's what's happening in the background. But we do strongly hope and expect that it will be that same mix of a hospital for a couple of days and the Puskas for a few days a week. Shifts and everything TBD.
Any other questions? Yeah, absolutely. If someone's just asked in the chat if we need to do mental health placements next semester, are we still eligible? Absolutely. The mental health placements can happen in semester, so you can still attend your mental health placement in the semester time and then go on the Jakarta placement and still complete that 120 hours there so that you get that full experience.
If anyone's got any just questions about Indonesia broadly, feel free to ask to cultural interest, concerns, whatever.
I had another really quick question, sorry.
No,
Just regards to like being with a group of 3, I think you said, Peter, with like the births and stuff we've got to get, how does that work if you're in like a group kind of situation?
Can I talk about what we've done previous placements?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
Maggie.
Yeah. So on previous international placements, we've had the same thing. So there's always been at least 2 students together, just for that buddy system. It just, just helps you feel comfortable in a very what can be quite an uncomfortable environment because you're outside of your comfort zone. And we have taken turns. So one is kind of that second midwife helping the second midwife in the room, and one's the primary accoucher. And you just take the turn. So the next birth that comes in, you just swap and you be that second midwife, and now that other person can be the primary. Things like that.
Okay, great, thank you.
Just for everyone, is there anything that hasn't been addressed today that you came to this session thinking, I really want to find this out? Is there something that perhaps, you feel that you want to know more about or that we didn't cover?
I just had another question. Just like I was a bit confused on what was said earlier about like doing placements this semester. Oh, sorry, next semester. So like I haven't in like an integrated placement throughout the semester. Are you saying that we're allowed to attend that on top? No. Okay.
No. So the bachelor and midwifery students have to attend a mental health
Yes.
placement in their second year, and that's a registration requirement just for the
Yes.
bachelor and midwifery. So those students will still be required to attend that mental health placement, because that obviously is not something that we can offer in Jakarta.
Yeah.
But the dual degree students don't have that written into their requirements.
Yes.
So they won't. If you already have a placement scheduled, then that will obviously be cancelled and you'll go to this international placement instead if you're successful.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Peter, it's Glenda. I was just wondering, just to maybe get the conversation going a bit more about Indonesia, what did you find your most, the highlight of the trip for you, and something that you didn't really know before you went?
I probably had many conversations about this when we had the day where we had a bit of an orientation and learnt about Indonesia and what are the things that things for us to learn about Indonesia. And I'm just going to go really basic here. I will be professional. It was, put your hand up if the answer is, if you think, yes or no. And it was just simple things as, for example, should we flush toilet paper down the toilet and into Dave's laughing. Look, blonde Australian, that says it all.
Because I
and
wrote
I
that
put
question, Peter. That's why I laugh.
Thank you, Dave. So it was, who thinks we should flush toilet paper in Indonesia? And of course, I just went like this. I went, absolutely. And the answer is no. So just finding out things that I never thought that would be something that I would have to consider, so I think finding out just different lifestyle ways of, very different to what I'm used to in my culture. The language barrier, I think that was a really big thing to overcome, because you really want to immerse yourself in being a part of the care of women and babies, and you got the gist of the language. There were some key words that, I can actually see that. And even when we were reading the women's charts, you could get the gist of the language that was being used, and there's an ultrasound test there, there's a result there. So when we had a little bit of time to look through the women's charts, but certainly, I really underestimated the language barrier. So I think for this time, it would be really beneficial to, have more language lessons prior to going, just so you feel you can contribute a little bit more to the conversations. I mean, our class that we had, it was rapid fire learning, how to communicate, and that was very, very beneficial. And it went round and everyone was put on the spot to, you've just learnt it, now can you talk to me? I think the communication was quite confronting. Maggie, you've been on international placements, and so have you, Glenda. So you can sort of share those experiences as well.
I just have another student's emailed me a question just around continuity of care. So I'll just clarify that a little bit further. So if you are successful in coming on the international placement trip, then I will be speaking to you, and basically I'll be asking that you recruit additional continuity of cares at your current hospital site. So that's your site that you are currently placed at in Brisbane. And these can be obviously due before you go, and then going into that kind of January time. So you would just need to be making them very aware that you'll be away for a month, and you'll be unable to attend any visits during that time. But that hospital that you're currently placed at is still considered your home hospital. So that you'll be totally okay to complete those continuity of cares there, because you have been orientated. There's not another student who'll be taking your spot. And pending all of my placements coming in for next year, that would kind of be the site that I'd be placing you back for your final semester. So yes, you would be completing those additional COCs at your current home hospital. So if you are successful in joining our international placement program, we will do a couple of get-togethers as a team before we go, just so that you can meet everyone else who is going to be part of the international placement team. You'll get to meet the academics, because we'll all be living in close quarters while we're over in Jakarta. So just some of those ice breakings before we go, just to kind of help with that team building experience. But you'll know all of those dates well in advance, so you'll be able to kind of plan your uni and life around those events.
As Maya said on the chat there, passport ready with the 6-month expiry. So if you think that you're pretty keen to go and your passport's getting close to within 6 months of expiry, or will have less than 6 months by November, you may want to just bear that in mind. Luckily, we're not just coming out of COVID now, so the wait time for a new passport's not what it was. But
I want to add that we're doing it differently this year, because last year was in June. This year is going to be in November and December, which is the start of the rainy season. We only have 2 seasons here in Indonesia. So that might, affect how you will pack, but then we'll cover everything during our pre-departure orientation, which we usually do a month before your arrival. So we'll cover everything that needs to be prepared beforehand.
So we just had a question around when students apply for the New Colombo grant. So how it works is we've actually applied for that as a university and international internships. So together we applied for the grant, and so that's why we can take 20 students. So we have basically 20 grants that we can provide to students and use for this year. And all you have to do is just meet that eligibility requirement. So it's just literally a matter of filling out a form, ticking that you meet those requirements that we mentioned at the start, and then we submit that and those funds will be released to you. So that will all happen very quickly after you know you've been successful. Okay, if we don't have any more questions, we might leave it there. I will follow up by sending out the EOI to all of the students in this cohort, and then you can have a look at that, have a think, have a chat to your family, and then submit that as soon as you have it written up, and we can start the process.
And feel free to reach out to us if you've got any questions about Indonesia or, you know, anything as well.
Great. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for attending. And we will send out this recording so you can go back over it if you missed anything at the start. But we look forward to receiving those applications.
Good to see
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.